I found this wonderful Glo-Bus simulation 2020 getting started by Dr. Matthew DeYoung. He's a professor that teaches a Glo-Bus or business coach or business course.
You get lots of time to practice, and slowly all of these business terms will start to click into your brain.
And I'm also going to pare the video down so it's a more manageable size. Here's a guy that really loves his students.
The premise of this game is that each group of students has inherited a company that's already manufacturing action capture cameras, which is a GoPro, and then drones. And this organization is up and running. It's got a healthy business right now. And you're jumping in on the 6th year of operations. So we're going to take our business and decide what type of business we want to be. So if we wanted to take a look at our design of our camera and say, you know what, this year we're going to make it a little bit better. Every time you make a decision here, now we're going to add a little bit of a larger image sensor, and we're going to increase the screen. What happened was the cost for us to produce the camera changed. Some of you will say, I'm going to make the best GoPro in the world. I might not sell as many, but I'm going to be known as high end. Some of you might say, I want to make the cheapest cameras in the world. That's going to be what our factory does. And slowly you're going to differentiate yourself from other businesses.
It's important not to get bogged down with this idea of I am, as a company, this type of thing.
Think about as you are designing your cameras and your drones is what type of star rating are we going to get? This becomes very critical in the game to watch your star rating because it becomes one of the differentiating factors in which camera the consumers choose. You're always trying to get the highest star rating for the lowest amount of money.
Okay, again, we're not trying to get the highest number of stars. We're not trying to get the lowest number of stars. We're trying to get the number of stars that the consumer wants to pick.
That's one of the easiest ways to be successful in this game. Because your customers will perceive a value. So if we wanted to continue to grow this, we can add extra features. And if I said I want 5 extra features, my stars will go up, but my cost to produce the camera will also go up. And you can play around with this. You can do more research and development. You can add more models so your customers have more choices. And when you do that, it does change the amount of assembly cost. It changes the amount of core components, and you just have to continually be mindful of this.
What do you need to focus on this page? Pick a PQ and then try to reduce the total camera production assembly cost for that PQ.
So for this particular program, I'm going to make the action camera a little bit nicer. I'm just going to be mindful of my star rating. If I have less models, you can see the star rating goes up. If you have more models, the star rating will get lower. So we're going to just slowly move our way. We're going to have 4 models, so we'll have 1 extra to choose from. Be mindful of this. And then if we wanted to improve the camera housing and its editing and sharing, and you see I'm only moving it a little by little.
Now, it might look like he's randomly clicking, and in fact, he is. It's an introduction video. Instead of randomly clicking to create your build, think a little bit more strategically. Pick a PQ, test whether or not that PQ is going to work for your company.
Once you've made the product design choices, it's time to move into marketing each product. Now, this screen is only for the GoPro or action capture cameras. You can see that you're already selling cameras to every part of the globe. More advanced students will get into currency exchange and things of that nature, but we're just getting an introduction to business. So right now, it's just the simple things of where are we sending it and how much retail support are we giving? So in this case, think about selling GoPros to Best Buy. You go into Best Buy and you look and you might see a sales promotion or an extended warranty or a nice advertising display with GoPros on it. Whatever it might be, the more you invest in helping retailers sell your product, the better things will get. So you're going to make choices about what price do you sell it at. Now remember, for this particular camera, we made it better and we raised our cost. So right here, we are looking at our profit margins very close. And the goal is always to be mindful of what our earnings per share might be. And you can see when I change the price of the game to $295. So I changed the price of my cameras from $225 to $295. You can see an immediate reaction here, and you can see an immediate reaction of how many we're going to need or how many people will desire. But look at our profit margin. We went from a very lean profit margin to 24.7%. So we made our camera better, but we also went back and tried to recapture those margins. I will do that in the other areas, and we'll look at a little bit of what kind of difference in profit margin you have based on where you send your cameras. So after we put the price in at $295 to all markets, you can see that the profit margin changes based on where we're selling. So am I willing to sell cameras for only a 16% profit margin? Well, our investors won't be getting the same earnings per share in the company because we won't be doing a real great service to our bottom line by selling at a cheaper margin than we did last year. So we have to make a decision. Do we want to make the camera cheaper, or do we want to raise the price even more to get the right mix? And this is a strategy in business too. Do we invest a lot of money in marketing, or do we let our customers help us sell ourselves? In this case, we're raising all of the marketing and advertising dollars so that more people will see the product. But you know what? Maybe in terms of promotions, we cut them back and see what happens if we did a 4-week promotion. It doesn't change our profit margin all that much in these regions. It does a little bit, but not much. So as you navigate through this game, you'll be continually manipulating the numbers and then watching to see what happens to your profit margin. All the time remembering that the profit margin that you had last year was good. And
All right. So I think it's important to stop here and say, this is an exercise. This is an introductory video. And what we're looking at is the effect of the decision making on the profit margins, on the profit. Look for the highest operating profit margin for the given market share.
after you've looked through all of these and tried to determine what was the best price, I think for the sake of this game and for teaching it, I want to make sure that the students all know that it's important to always keep your profit margins over 20% if you're in volume business, and much higher if you are not in volume but in a niche. So we look at this. After I raise the price to $330, I make some changes. If I don't like those, I can go back into the product design category and I can say, you know what, maybe we can't spend this much on all of these components. So, you know what, instead of jumping up huge in the image sensor, I'm just going to go a little bit of an increase in all of them. And then, you know what, I'm not going to try to do more models quite yet. I don't think we have the bandwidth and we don't want to lose any customers. A quick change in that, and you guys will look at the performance and see that some of those will be rewarded in the projected performance. And this is
So it's important to note that you shouldn't play Glo-Bus relatively. Your previous numbers were just your previous numbers. The market has moved on. So you shouldn't be sticking to something just a little bit better than the previous numbers for the sake of trying to stay constant.
Here I'm competing against Fallon, and I think she's going to go high end. So I'm going to say, I bet Fallon's going to raise the price a little. Not to 225. She'll probably go like 260. But she's definitely going to increase the quality of her camera. And then I can get as detailed as I want here. For these purposes, I'm not going to do much more than that. But you can see when I change my projections, the performance here changed.
Those red numbers are the industry averages of what the competition is going to be doing. You don't have control of that, except to say that maybe next year people will get a little bit more competitive, and that's generally what will happen. So if you want to do these red numbers at the bottom of the marketing page, you have to think about what the competition is likely to do. Set that up first and then start on your build, starting from product design to the marketing pages and on through to finance and cash flow.
So the more detailed you get about what your competitors might be doing, the better. And that's where reading all of your reports every week becomes so crucial. Now we get into the drone marketing campaign. This is our third section. And remember, we lowered the quality of our drone a little bit. So let's reflect that in the price. Um, See, we're already at a lean profit margin. So we're going to bring the price down just a little bit. And then maybe change the discount that we'll offer to third-party retailers. And as I make these choices, we'll see these changes happen. You know what? We're going to cut down a little bit on the support that we give people based on the price drop. And as we slowly change these numbers and go for contraction instead of growth, you can see that our profit margins will change. The next thing that we look at is compensation and facilities. One of the things I love about this game is it makes you think about how do you treat your people, right? And you'll be able to see how all of your competitors treat their people. So thinking as if you were in the seat of the CEO, what do I want to do in order to compete against my people, treat my people the best that I can, but still earn my shareholders' money? Because most of the big corporations that exist in our world today, they exist to make their shareholders more money. That's the reason that they exist. And that's where these terms that most of you have never heard of, earnings per share, return on equity, it's just fancy ways of saying how much money do the shareholders get. And with all the stuff you bought to do business, what was your return? Did you make wise investments into assets? Now you'll notice in the compensation and facilities tab, you have a chance to determine if you're going to give your people raises or if you're going to lower their salaries. We give a 3% change. We want to make sure that we're continuing Six Sigma practices of constantly getting better. So you know what we are.
What you really should be doing is listening to your employees as to what they will tell you about earnings per share. For example, if a fringe benefits package of $0 gives you more earnings per share, do that. If a fringe benefits package of $5,000 gives you more earnings per share, do that.
Here is one of the most critical things to think about is, are you going to expand? If you are going for a volume strategy, it is really important that you think about expanding your business. So maybe you, at the end of the year, you had 300 workspaces. If you wanted to say, I'm going to increase 10% in new spaces, that is going to cost the business $433,000 a piece. Is that a good investment? Well, if you capture enough volume, it's a great investment. But you have to know your strategy. If you're going to be high end, you're not going to need a whole lot of extra workspaces. You're going to need excellent employees at every turn providing a quality product. If you're going mass everything, then maybe you want to put a whole lot of money out on the line and build out a lot of workspaces because you think that you have figured it out.
Dr. Matthew DeYoung brings up a very good point. That point is you don't look at ending cash when you're playing around with facilities. To do the facilities page, you should be looking at the demand and how it's equal to the capability.
This, let's not worry about for a while because it's a whole new element to the game. So we've turned it off until year 9. The way you want to think about that is if you are white labeling a product for somebody. So let's say GoPro wanted to sell this exclusively to Best Buy, but they wouldn't get to say GoPro on it. Those are the kind of things that you'll be thinking about there. And then what do we want to give back, right? Are we going to make charitable contributions? Are we going to make sure that we're a green facility? If that's important to you, or if you believe that, you know what, I'm going to give 10% of my operating profit back. I'm going to give it to God. I'm going to give it to charity. I just want this to be a business that promotes Jesus Christ. So I'm going to give 10% of my earnings. Now, see what's happening is everything's changing here. Your image is changing because I think people will like you better if you go green, but also your earnings per share are changing. And one of the things I love about this game is you realize that all of your business decisions have a ripple effect into all of the different silos in a company.
CSRC initiatives, if you do one of them, it takes a while for it to compound in terms of image. So say, for example, that you do institution of supplier code of conduct. You click yes this year, and then you click no the next year. You click yes the following year, and then no again. You're going to get a lot less impact in image by doing that rather than compounding the yeses over the years.
We've made some choices, and now this is the time where you go into your finance and cash flow tab. And this is where you're going to try and determine, do I need to take a loan out? Do I need to take a loan out, or do I need to issue some more stock? Whenever we talk about a company taking on debt or trying to raise money, they have two options to raise money. One is to take on debt to get a bank loan. Here you can see the interest plays a role in the bank loans, how long they are, and how quickly you think you can pay back the money that you need in order to keep your business afloat. Because the reality is you need to cover that ending cash, because you don't want to run out of cash in this game. It's much better for a business. And this is where high school students, early college students have to make the differentiating factor of, it is so crucial to stay out of debt. But if you're in a large business, debt and equity, an understanding of that is crucial. And that's why I really encourage students to determine, how am I going to move money? And what's it like to have to eat a 6.5% interest? So here's my choice. Do I want to invest some of that bank's money on a 10-year note because I believe I'm going to do it? Here's all of the cost to that. And all of a sudden I don't have a ton of cash still at the end of the year. Then you know what? I'm going to issue some stock. And what issuing stock means is you're actually selling your company, part of your company, to another person. All of our companies in the Dow Jones are publicly traded. They're owned by a myriad of people who own different levels of it.
So what I want you to look at is the change in earnings per share. Issuing shares has to do with earnings per share. If you reduce the number of shares, the overall earnings per share will go up. If you increase the number of shares by issuing them, then the earnings per share will go down. So you have to balance how you're going to finance your company. And that's what he's saying. He's saying that the debt and equity balance, you don't need to gag over the amount of debt. Absolutely. You have to rather look at it from the point of view of credit rating.
Here we're going to sell some stock so that we can maintain positive cash. And I think the company will always give you the max that you can sell. So here it's 5,000 that you can sell. I don't want to sell the max, because the longer I don't sell shares, but I stay valuable, the more the shares of the people that own it are being rewarded. Every time you liquidate or you offer up more stock, you dilute the money that is being paid out to others. So it's important that if you do issue out stock to cover or to make money, that it gets a return on an investment. So here we'll say we're going to take out 2,000. We're going to issue out 2,000 shares of stock. See, what happened is our cash went up to the point where we can survive as we see how the market bears everything. So now we've gotten all of these numbers, and we can go back to a time of looking back and deciding, do we want to make little minor tweaks to raise our margins, or little minor tweaks based on our competitive analysis of what everybody else is doing? So after we've made our final cash flow decisions, we will work into understanding the reports. So the scoreboard here is every class period that the decisions roll over. I always like to make the decisions roll over right before class so that all the students can kind of get geared up and see where they land. And then I pull the scoreboard up in real time. So I usually end the decision round right at the beginning of class, and then try to make it a fun event where we hoot and holler and say good job to the people that did a good job, but also provide analysis for the teams that didn't do well, so that they can bounce back.
All right. This is what I want you to remember. I want you to remember this GTD score measure. That is what creates your grade. And how do you get a GTD score that's high? You concentrate on 5 scoring metrics. And what are those 5 scoring metrics? Earnings per share, return on equity, stock price, credit rating, and image. Image is impacted by market share. Earnings per share, return on equity, stock price, and credit rating is impacted by profit.
Here is going to be all of our key performance measures on all of our different companies. Here's your score on credit rating. Here's where you land on bonus points. So this is your scorecard, because you can't make solid decisions without learning how to read the basics of a financial statement. And a lot of people will think it's scary at first, but the more that you ask questions and the more that you take the time to hit this little help section right here, This is one of the most robust help resource libraries that I have come across. So any page that you're on, this will pull up a document that will tell you everything you can possibly want to know about that specific screen on the game.
So that's one reason why I love this guy. He's so in it for the learning of his students that he's preventing them from just clicking away. Terrible strategy when it comes to Glo-Bus. It might work one year, but then the next year it just doesn't.
So use that. Use your partners. Make sure that when you have partners in the game, that you give everybody a chance. It's nice to agree on strategy, but it's also important for each student to get their muscle memory on the computer and reading the reports. Because even though you're in a group, it's very important to me that I look and see that all the students are reading the camera and drone journal and this competitive intelligence reports.
Okay, I love this point, and it's so often overlooked. The proper way of structuring your group is to have everybody competing against each other within the group for the best build. Whoever has the best build, yay, everybody wins. If you try to structure your group so that each person has a page, then it's not going to work because each page is so connected to another.
These competitive intelligence reports are going to tell you what your competitors are doing. So you can see that in North America, companies A, B, C, and D are all selling the same thing right now. Now, when they pivot and when the decisions come through, you will see a change to all of these, and you'll notice that somebody has gone for the high end. You know, they have the 10-star camera automatically, and we know that they rushed that way. And then we want to look and see, what did they spend on retailer support? What did they spend on advertising? Because you're going to notice that some people in this game really start to win, and the how behind how they did it is all in just learning how to read these reports. And again, if this report doesn't make any sense to you, click the help screen, and immediately you'll get a deep understanding of how to go through all of these competitive intelligence reports. There's plenty of YouTube videos out there about the Glo-Bus simulation, if that's your learning style. Don't be afraid to gather all the resources. It's really meant to be something that's fun, that shows students the fun and the deep thought and creative thinking that comes behind making business decisions.